part of the Dementia Friendly Westmont and the Westmont Public Library are together time creating memorable moments. So hopefully you got to see this. Like I said, my name is Mary Ferguson. I'm with the Birches in Clarendon Hills. We're assisted living and memory care. And my wonderful co-presenter, Patty Turkovich, is with Aspired Living of Westmont, independent, assisted, and memory care as well. So you'll get to see Patty in a few moments. For those of you who have seen our presentations before, usually we have masks on, so you may not recognize us this time, but Patty and I both have been vaccinated for a while now. So we're feeling a little bit more comfortable being in the same room. And just so that you guys are aware, the room that we have is the lower level of the chamber, and it's a large room, and it's just Patty and myself. So we are social distancing when we aren't on screen, just so that you're aware of that. Again, just trying to keep everybody safe. So let's get started a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about Dementia Friendly Westmont. I'm going to hold this brochure up. This is the activity kits that were available at the library, and I know that there are still some available. They're also located throughout the community. Westmont became a dementia-friendly community March of 2020. We've had wonderful support from the Village of Westmont, which includes the administration, the police and fire, the park district, the chamber. Of course, the library's been wonderful as well. And then we have several local businesses that are also participating. The goal of Dementia Friendly Westmont it's a grassroots effort. The idea really is to provide education, support, and resources for those living with dementia, their caregivers, families, and friends. So our goal with these presentations through the library is to let people connect, realize that there are support out there, that there's resources available if or when you might need them, whether it's for yourself or a loved one or a family friend. And the goal of these particular programs that we're doing with the library are to share some ideas that you can do with someone that has some memory impairment, or even if for just seniors, you want something to do, you want to keep active, and you want to use your brain, exercise your brain. These are wonderful activities as well. So we're very happy to bring this to you. This, like I said, is being recorded, so it will be on the YouTube channel for the library. We will have another one in June, but it will be pre-recorded for the summer. And so the library will have those out so you can look for future dates on the library's website. But again, today we're going to start with creating memorable moments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Patty, and she's going to kind of kick it off for you. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat box, and we will go ahead and answer those when we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome, Patty.
Welcome. Hi, I'm Patty Turkovich. As Mary said, I am the lifestyle specialist over at Aspired Living Westmont, and we are independent living as well as assisted and memory support as well. This program is one that keeps evolving. We're having a great deal of fun with it. If you've not seen some of our previous recordings, I'd encourage you to go ahead and do so. So Mary and I have charted a plan, and pretty much every month we've kind of thrown it to the side and spun off into another direction just because it's fun and it's creative and it gives us an opportunity to stretch our brains as well. So originally we had been talking about for May, gardening, Mother's Day, all of that kind of theme. And last week we decided to throw that all aside. Couple of things is that we've already done tea parties. We've already done a few of the other things that we were talking about doing. And it clicked when Mary said, you know, May, Memorial Day, is the kickoff to barbecue season, grilling season, whatever you call it, picnic season. And it just made sense to us to go in that direction to have some fun, especially because we're recording these early enough in the month that if you wanted to incorporate these ideas right away, you'd be able to do so. So the reason why barbecue season really clicked for both of us is there is so much benefit to stepping outside of the home. Again, we do not know the stage of your loved one, so you always have to keep safety in mind. That being said, you can still be outdoors safely. And these, again, as we've always done, these are things that you don't have to do as their primary caregiver. You could have this something assigned to someone who's always wanting to help, a good friend, a neighbor, a family member, a distant family member. So being outdoors, I want you to put your thinking caps on and think back to the last time you ate outdoors. Chances are, if you really give it a moment and think about it, you could give your brain time to recall the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes, even that sensory input of the emotion that you were experiencing at that time. And I actually do a meditation program on this matter of just taking that moment to experience that. It's giving your brain a rest, and it's creating a moment of daydream, which kind of lets the brain relax and pull things from different areas. So let me explain that a little bit more clearly, hopefully. Every sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, and emotion that we experience is filed in our hippocampus. If we can tether that experience with something else, it gives us more opportunity to retrieve that information and that memory. So when we're talking about a person with memory loss, if we do a picnic, that gives them the opportunity to talk about, do they like, the barbecue ribs or grilled chicken, or is there nothing better than a grilled hot dog with that charred skin? Again, conversation starters, but it also helps heighten their awareness, their sensory awareness, because we're changing things up. Subtle, but significant enough. And the more that we change that environment, the more meaningful and impactful it will be for our persons. So if you're taking the party on the road and you decide we're going to do a picnic, we're fortunate in DuPage County, we have so many wonderful forest preserves and park district areas where you can go and grill, picnic, whatever you choose to do. That gives opportunity for people watching, that gives opportunity for different sensations while dining. You have the wind in your hair, you have, maybe you might have ants around the table. You may have a different taste because, again, your sensories are heightened, so you're more aware of what you're experiencing. I go back to the audible sounds. Are you hearing the wind in the trees? Are you hearing the birds up above? I'm thinking of Herrick Lake immediately, and the geese zooming in and off the lake there. All of those sounds are really positive input for our loved ones, as well for us too. By going out and smelling the grills as everyone is doing whatever wood theme of the month it is, whether it's hickory, ash, I don't even know, oak, what else, or I'll say chute mesquite, I think is another real popular one. All of those bring about another sense and awareness for our loved ones. And that then helps evoke more memories. So I encourage you, when you decide what you're going to do, if you're going to give any of this a try, even take it on the road, go for a picnic. You can go to the backyard. We've done, I have a balcony. We've actually eaten out there several times throughout the summers in the past, because it's a different experience and it makes it fun, it makes it interesting, and that novel experience will help a person feel safer, more comfortable being out and about with you there, or whoever your designee is, as their safety net should they need some help. So I hope that makes sense as to why we've decided to go in this direction. Again, it's Memorial Day, and we really feel that it's a great time to kick off the season. We're going to show you a few things that you can do or someone else can do with your loved one as a craft or an activity ahead of time. And that being said, I'm going to have Mary come back and show you one of our first activities. So yay Memorial Day. Mary, come on over. I'll be back.
Thanks, Patty. So I'm back. So when Patty was talking about the barbecue, it's great, hot dogs, brats, but keep in mind, you can go to a Jewel and Whole Foods and Mariano's and pick up some chicken, some pre-made sandwiches. You don't have to overextend yourself, but the idea is to enjoy it, because you can get a bucket of chicken, some coleslaw, some biscuits, and you call it a day. Get some lemonade, make sun tea, whatever you want to do. But when Patty and I were talking about this, like she said, this is a great way to kick off today, which is Cinco de Mayo, actually, May 5th. We were saying it's a beautiful day out. This certainly gets people in the mood to start planning for their Memorial Day. So that being said, when we're looking at different things, certainly it's fun. And so Patty and I do have a lot of fun trying to come up with ideas. And this one was exceptionally fun for me anyway. I'm not quite sure why. I love the summers and I love barbecue and being patriotic. So we have a couple things. So first of all, in your kits, if you pick those up, you're going to see in a baggie, there's some wooden stars. They're already cut. So they're a nice size. They're easy to hold. The idea, again, is when Patty and I are planning things, besides that it's fun and there's some purpose behind it, this also is visual, it's tactile. The stars are a little pointy, it certainly doesn't hurt, but for someone with some memory impairment, be able to turn this in their hand, touch it, even smell it, because it does have that wood smell. But it's also, when you think of stars, you usually think of, 4th of July, you think of fireworks. You're going to go more that patriotic theme. So we're going to think about your fine motor skills that we're going to be working when you have these stars. So part of this was, again, in your kit, or if you want to buy these, you could have wrapping paper. It could be tissue paper, whatever's around your house. But in the kits are some pretty cool patriotic scrapboarding paper, I guess, scrapbooking paper. I don't scrapbook, but this was a lot of fun and I actually enjoyed it a lot. So a lot of different colors and patterns. So part of the thing with this was going to be tracing the stars, cutting out, creating your own shapes if you want, but also one of the things that's very important is choice. So we don't want to take away that choice from our loved one. So we would, you could lay these out. And unfortunately, I know that this is not the best view, but I'm going to try to do my best at holding these up like they're cards. But what you might be able to do is lay this on a table and ask somebody, oh my goodness, let's talk about the different patterns. Is there anything that appeals to them? What does it reminisce about? So to me, I think of like the top of umbrellas in a beach. Not everybody might see that, but again, these are conversations to start. And reminiscing is always wonderful. It's part of why we do this this program in itself. It's this together time. And the more we can talk with one another and we can have that engagement and that positive emotional response is so important for not only yourself as the caregiver, but for your loved one that has memory impairment. So again, going back to these, I love this one, the All-American Girl. So what does that mean to your mom or your dad, your grandparent, your spouse? I think of this, I think of Tom Petty, All-American Girl, the song. But everybody's going to be a little different. And it has the very classic, the wood on the background, certainly red, white, and blue. But if you flip it over, it has stars. And what does that have somebody start to think about? So the paper itself are great, almost springboards onto new conversations and what this might be. And certainly we cut them out in sizes that are easy to handle and manage, but also so that everybody had a little bit of a variety so that you can certainly talk a little bit more. I love this with the little flags. What is this? At first I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. I thought I was like more nautical. But then I also thought about hanging out laundry. That's something, again, that I remember my mom doing, shirts, things like that. And certainly the summer is the time to do that. So again, you don't know where this is going to lead in a conversation, but I bet it'll be enjoyable regardless of what the topic is. So speaking of topic, I'll get back on mine. Again, the stars. So what I was doing is I was just putting them on the paper and I did a little pre-cutting. So bear with me for a moment. So I cut out the stars. So there's a couple options you can do. Obviously, you could just put it right on top and you have a pretty cool looking star that's a little bit more firm. The other thing you can do is you could also turn it so it looks more this way. You can do a lot of different things with your stars, but again, it's choice. So it'd be very interesting to see what your loved one would be doing. So if you cut out more than one, my thought is trace them enough for the hard stars, but continue to trace and make more because you're not sure what you're going to end up with, what stories you might have or what you want to do with that particular craft that you've created. So after you've done that, there's a couple things. Patty's going to show you a really cool centerpiece, but you could add these to your centerpiece. The other thing that you could do is you could hole punch it and then some curling ribbon. I love curling ribbon. It is fun. But what's interesting about this, and I will tell you a little story before I get it. Patty was wonderful at curling ribbon, and she also loves curling ribbon. And her and I sometimes have contests who can curl better. It's usually Patty, just so you know. But again, if you take this, obviously you have to be careful with the scissors. But even if you're doing this, as you curl ribbon, it is fascinating because there's a sound, and there's certainly a result that is amazing when you think about what we're doing. So this alone is pretty cool. And I know you might think, okay, it's just curling ribbon. But you look at all the circular motions, have somebody touch this in their hand and pull it and let it go back, almost like that accordion. But again, this is very fine motor that is sometimes lost. And so this is a great way to kind of get that back. So as you have more curling ribbon and out and about, it is kind of fascinating. And it is, like a lot of things, it's kind of fun to play with. So if you did it, again, it's included in your kit, red, white, and blue, of course. Curl them all and see where that leads, because that alone is a great activity. But you can certainly, like I said, you could hole punch them. You could, I have glue dots, you could glue dot them, and you could hang them as a centerpiece. You know, whether it's your front door, if you have an umbrella and you want to hang them. The other thing you can do is you can tie them around the base of the star. So if you can bear with me a moment and see how well my fine motor skills are working today. There we go. Again, you know, double knot it, but again, you can hang this. Really, you can do anything that you want. The idea really, again, is you want to work those fine motor skills. As you're cutting these stars out, what I did is I took a Sharpie and I kind of just traced around it. But again, as you get your scissors, which are not included in your basket, however, excuse me, I have to decline that. But as you cut, again, you may end up with maybe not the perfect star, but maybe you're going to end up with a kind of a large star, a small star, or if you cut these out and you want to actually just cut it out and paste it on the star. Again, we want you to be creative. We want you to kind of take the lead from your friend, your spouse, your parent, whatever they want to do, kind of just go with it. Let them kind of create their own creation, I guess, as you'll say. But this is a great activity, again, for your fine motor, your gross motor. And really going back to, like Patty and I have said several times, if you continue to watch us, is this is not rocket science. But I think what happens sometimes is we get caught up in making sure everything is perfect. It's not about being perfect. It's not about being successful or doing it a right or wrong way. It's just creating. And as we all know with different art, you know, somebody likes Picasso, somebody might like Monet. It really kind of depends on what their taste is. So this is more for an enjoyable activity. The other thing is, as we talk a lot about, if you're looking and someone says, how can I help you? You know, I know you need a break as a caregiver. What can I do? This is easy. And you can do this with, like I said, wrapping paper, tissue paper, depending on how creative you want to get. There's so many things you can do. Even if you just had stars that were blank and you cut them out of cardboard, like construction paper, you could paint them. Again, that is an interesting technique you can use. Again, that's going to be your fine motor skills on placing, you know, different colors on the star, however you want to do it. So it is kind of a fun way to interact. Again, we talk about Memorial Day barbecues, patriotic. What is that resonating with your loved one? Do they remember stars and the flag and parades that they attended? So those are another way to really engage your loved one in conversation. And as you do this, ask questions and wait for the response. And then based on the response, you can certainly ask another question and see where they lead you. Because I think sometimes we can get caught up in making sure that we're doing the activity that we we forget the purpose, again, which is spending that time together, enjoying each other's company, and making some new memories that you can share for many years to come. So with that, again, I have my stars, and it's I had a lot of fun with this. So kind of be creative. If you are, like I said, if you don't have a kit, these are things you can pick up easily at the store, go on Amazon, fairly inexpensive. But if you have the kit, be creative. And the other thing that would be kind of fun, and I'm going to throw this out right now for the library, is that take pictures and maybe send them in to us. That would be a lot of fun to see what you've created with your loved one. And I'd have to look at Patty. I think we should start doing that. So I'm going to share that with the library, that they might expect some pictures. But again, it's a nice way for you to spend time with your loved one. So with that, one last thing, in your kits, there's stickers. I love stickers. Not everybody does, but it is fun. And so again, you could put this on the stars. You could do anything you want with it. But again, it's nice because you have to peel it off the back. That's again another fine motor skill. And talk about what the content is. This says Stars and Stripes. This says 1776. What does that start to spark in your loved one's memory? Again, hopefully a great conversation that you guys can have. So I'm going to set this down, and Patty is going to come back around, and she's got some interesting centerpieces that I know had a lot of fun putting together. All right, so I'll be back.
Hi, I'm back. So in continuing with the theme, as Mary's also shared with you already, I'm doing a centerpiece with you. And it's funny, Miss Mary was talking and I was sitting off to the side. We are talking about, creative together time. And one of the things that we need to remember is that together time is not only reminiscing, but it's also okay just to be quiet together. When she was cutting those stars, there's a nice rhythmic feel to that. And that's calming, it's quieting, and it's okay to not talk. And depending on what stage of the disease your person is, having to really work hard at a conversation can be exhausting for them. So it is okay to have quiet time, and quiet time for you is also a really good thing as that primary caregiver, or even the friend, visitor, whoever it is that's spending time there. We need to become okay with just calm and quiet and silence, and doing things together is really that most meaningful part of it. And Mary's taken the tray away that I told her to leave here, excuse me. So anyhow, but when she was talking about doing the stars, one of the other things that popped into my head was that, and she talked about the gift wrap and the paper and all of that, but what I love about the star shape is that this is something that you can use for Christmas, you can use them for Halloween, you can use stars for pretty much every season if you chose to. Summertime, it could also be seashells and the little starfish. So you can keep playing with this same theme, and it's easy to hold. And one of the other parts when she was holding it that caught my attention is using her Sharpie marker to trace it, it gave a nice natural coloring to the edges. So beyond Patriotic, you can use these elements to also create fun things for every season. So think outside the box, and remember, it's okay for people to take their time, to have some quiet time. We want to give that experience for that tactile, that stimulation, and of course conversation, but gauge, where are they? Are they more focused on the task? And is it better to let them focus on that versus splitting their attention, and they may feel like they can't keep up with it? Because if you're more advanced in the disease process, it's going to be like having 50 million things pulling your attention at one time. We may be able to talk and cut and trace at the same time. Some of us maybe not so well, and I'm looking at you, Mary. But at the end of the day, for a person with memory loss disease, simple, one step at a time, one task at a time is usually better. And it doesn't matter what stage of the disease they're at. That's a truth throughout the course of the disease. So again, use our little starfish friends. I'm not going to call them starfish, but our little stars in many different ways. And again, the shape is great because people can hold it very far along through the disease process. And then the one last thing that I will comment on this too is that it gives that opportunity for people to use their fine motor skills. And the reason why Mary and I talk so much about that is because as the disease progresses, what happens, we start doing more and more for our loved ones for a couple of reasons. Because it's faster and we want it done, and we're thinking about us, not the benefit of them doing it in their own pace, which I get it. There are times we need things done. But if we can plan to make sure we keep them doing things for themselves, they will be stronger, longer, and that's what we want. The other thing is that when we see someone starting to struggle, for those of us who are nice, kind, thoughtful people, our natural impulse is to help them. And so we think by stepping in and taking over or finishing it so it's done fast and we make it go away, we're actually saving their dignity. Whereas what we are doing is we're taking away their dignity of fixing it and finishing it. Perhaps a better approach would be to step in and say, may I help you? Or may I work with you on that? And that way you can bring it to a conclusion, but you're keeping those fine motor skills, that hand-eye coordination, all of that humming along. And that is important because when they start to lose this, so much more is going to be put on that primary caregiver. So don't feed into that problem is my message. So now that I'm done talking about Mary's task, which is fine because we do dovetail very nicely and intentionally so. When I had said earlier in the program that we were originally thinking Mother's Day stuff, blah, blah, blah. Of course, you know, what would we do? Oh, a floral arrangement. And one of the things that helped us spin out of it is always like, well, what about the guys? And okay, I lied. I'm bringing back the stars for another thing. With this wood stuff, with any wooden object, one of the other things you can do, because men get forgotten in this stuff, you know, it's a lot easier because women tend to be more into the arts and crafts and social and do anything, try anything. Maybe not so much for every guy we know. So by bringing something wooden into it, one of the other things you could do is get a small piece of sanding paper and ask them to sand the edges. Fine motor skills, something that they may have done at other points in their life, a familiar task, and feeling purposeful. So, okay, so for real now, I'm putting the stars aside. Yes, you may take it, but maybe not. I leave it. Mary's like so anxious to get this put away for some reason. Sorry about that, folks. All right. So as we were talking about it, like, okay, what can we do? And so my thought was, let's go ahead and create a centerpiece that guys would feel more comfortable doing. So in doing this particular task, we wanted something that men would be welcoming and wanting to be part of. I think of my brother-in-law, and no one hangs the flags outside the right way other than him, even though we've seen him do it a billion times and we do know how they're supposed to go, but he still has to go and tweak. So I think this is something that would be near and dear to many persons' hearts, and especially our guys. So in your kit, you will receive a few strands of this silver, red, white, and blue, I should say, garland. Very familiar stuff. Love this for a couple of reasons. I'll talk more about that in a bit. You should have received 2 pinwheels, which, let's face it, pinwheels on their own are just super fun. You can play with them when you're putting this stuff together, the sound, blow on them, again, going back, jostling that memory, trying to reminisce, maybe something will spark from them. And if nothing else, you just see them and you can't help but smile when you see pinwheels. At least that's the case for me. So the other items that you'll receive, we have a couple of flags in each of the kits. And then I went ahead and packed up some red crinkle. The reason for the crinkle, oh, and you'll also get a jar, mason jar with the lid. So you can multi-purpose this activity, and down the road you can pull it apart, pack it away, and bring it out again and again and again. And you can also spring from this theme and do something for Halloween, something for Christmas, something for Valentine's Day. So bear with me as we go along. So for filler, because no one wants to look at an ugly empty vase in the bottom, and we're not going to put fake water in here because that's sloppy, messy, and there's no need. And then you can't do anything else with this later on down the road. So if you have the kit, you're set. But if you're pulling things from around the house, you might have a clear vase that you'd like to use. You might have a Patriotic vase that you'd like to use. Look around, play with it, but if you don't have the kit and you found something clear, an easy fill is always crinkle paper shred. Also, if you have white beans, dry beans, you can use that. I would also say if you have marbles, but again, think in terms of stage and appropriateness, because marbles can look like candy to some people down the road. So you don't want them thinking, ooh, and popping them in and choking. So keep in mind, we always have to be aware of what stage our loved one is and what risks may be there. And so we have to pay attention. True story, I once was in our art room and we had a family member who was busy pointing out something another resident was doing, and she was there helping her family member, and she was too busy watching everybody else instead of her family member. As she was pointing out somebody else had picked up something and was putting it in their mouth, their family member was doing the same thing. So it's like, we have to pay attention. It's very easy in a blink of an eye for somebody to do something in later stages. So with the shred, just pull it apart and tuck it in there. And this is one of those projects that there's no right, no wrong. I do like to make sure that it is filling in as much of the dead spaces because I don't like looking at empty space. It looks like we missed something. And this is why I would probably not be good at leading an art class for people with memory impairment, because I need to have certain things. And when I do help out, I have to really just shut my mouth, which, as Mary can attest to, can be hard sometimes. So got it filled up, got it put in here. I don't know how well you can see it. It's okay to have some spilling out. You know, this should be a fun, festive, colorful motion. And that's why I also like crinkled paper. And then, yes, you're going to have a bit of a mess, but you just take the extra pieces and tuck them in there and no one's ever going to know. So with the garland, there are a few things you can do. And this gets into fine motor skills and it's fun. So you want to give some texture, you want to give some dimension, you want our folks to have a fun time doing this. Something they can do that's a really unique fine motor skill for every one of us is just taking it and twirling it around our finger. Not tightly, kind of like loose, but then you pull it apart and you have, in my mind, like a spark from a firecracker. It just looks motion, it looks exciting, it makes it a little more interesting. And then you can also cut these lengths because you do get 3 in the kit. We did 3 long strands. I think it's a yard if I remember correctly. So you can cut them to different lengths, which I did some of those already. So again, you don't have to twirl all of them maybe. Maybe you'll just want some to be partially. And then you just pull it apart and you've got that motion again. And when you're doing this, it's fun to talk about the reason why you're doing this. And then afterwards, it is a leading question, but that's okay because that gives their brain time to catch up to what you're thinking. So when I just said, this reminds me of a shooting firecracker, there's no real reason, but it does. In my brain, I see something sparkly, shiny, and stars and firecracker motions looking. And I'm like making up all sorts of words here, but you know what I mean. That's how I see it. And by me saying this reminds me of like the spark off of a firecracker being shot into the air. That will get their brain going and thinking about these things as well. So as you're doing this, you can also talk about, this kind of feels funny having these stars flickering at our fingertips, the sound of the rustling because it's a tinfoil kind of product. So you're talking about that as well. And then, because I do kind of go off in tangents, I look at it and you can see all the different lights sparkling on it. So it makes it really pretty and it's sparkly. Again, reminiscent of fireworks. With the kit, when you start to put it together, this is something I always have to like fight myself with because I think that it should be one way. And the beauty of a floral arrangement or a patriotic arrangement is there are many ways that you can do this. So I'm going to start with my one piece. And again, you want to give your loved one choice. This shouldn't be you leading it. I know right now I'm leading this, but when I'm with someone, I need to make sure that they're involved. Which of these, hey Mary, which of these do you want me to use as the tall piece?
The blue one in your left hand.
Okay, the blue star one's this one with the red stick. Okay, thank you. So Mary has chosen this one to be our tall piece. So we're going to start with that. And did you notice she purposely took her time answering me? So I had to keep my mouth shut and wait for her to respond. So even though we may get antsy wanting a response and just say, you want this one, right? No, let the person take their time and respond accordingly. So go ahead and we put that in. Therein lies the fact that then this is going to be my shorter one because I want to have some bulk up front. And I'm doing this in how it makes sense in my head. So keep in mind that you can do this any way you want. If your person said, I want 2 tall ones, that's okay. You can stick flags in. That's the next piece that we're using as a component in the kit. But I like texture, so I would be leading and encouraging. I think we need a shorter one, and this is how I ultimately get what I want. And I use this with my niece and nephew when they were little too. I think we need a shorter one. What do you think of this one? And so then they'd say yes, and I'd snip off the bottom piece so I can give some bulk in the front of it as well. And as you can see, I'm having some difficulty finessing it, but I'll get it in there. And then you'll have the flags. And so it's just, to me, a natural of where should we put these? And let them do it. I mean, I don't have Mary over here having her do it along with me. But again, this should be their activity, not you. You're there to lead, engage, connect, but not do it. So then, of course, I'm going to take this one. I'm going to pretend that I'm the person with memory impairment, and I'm going to put it the way I want. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here because I want balance. And then I get to play with my little sparkles. So I'm going to go ahead and just tuck these in so I get some motion. I get some height in the back. So it looks like it's zooming action. And then again, taking my time, twirling these, talking about whatever I wanted. Maybe you're going to just put some music on. That could be patriotic music or relaxing music, whatever you think they'd enjoy or whatever you'd like to listen to, and you can reminisce to that as well. So again, as we get more of these, you just kind of keep putting them in, and not everything has to go up. There are plenty of fireworks that fizzle out so they can go down. And then we can do another one. And I tend to like things very full, very lush. I am not a minimalist in that regard. I like things to be exciting to look at. I like to see texture. And as you're doing this, that's something else that you can do is keep bringing it forward and back. How does this look? How does that look? What else do we need? And I, of course, would say more of the fireworks. So we're going to do more fireworks. And encouraging them to do as much as they can. If you see them having some difficulty, ask permission to help them. I'm not a baby. I'm able to do it. I just might be needing some help. I just might need a little more time, but don't just zoom in and take over, because you're going to make me very angry. You're going to demean my abilities, and chances are I'm going to start fighting you on things down the road. So don't go there. So I'm looking at this, and I think that we need a few more in the front. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And as I said earlier, you can pull this apart after your picnic, your barbecue, and redo it for 4th of July, redo it for Labor Day. If you're just doing a pool party and you want a patriotic theme, you can redo this for Flag Day. Every occasion that we would want to run the flag up and salute it, that's going to be a time when you could pull this out. And the beauty with this kit is you just pack it up and it's ready to go the next time that you need it. You can also branch off of this with other concepts, of course, but I like the fact that you can do this once, have everything, and every time you visit it again, it can be different. You know, it's not always going to be the same because you're going to look at things differently. So this is one and done. And again, it's not perfect, but it shouldn't be. It's a creation. So everything should be super fun when you're doing that. Now, going back to the two things that Mary and I chose to do complement each other really well. So when she was talking earlier about when you've made your stars, let's pretend that this was glued together. and say you wanted to have a little more visual interest on the front. And I like fireworks, so I would put the firework on front, and you could actually tie it onto here. Oh, maybe I need something with more color. Hold on a second. I don't want to mess up your stuff. So, you know, you could tie this on, or you could even just prop them up wherever you set this up as your centerpiece. And then if you didn't want to do that, one of the other things Mary talked about having were stickers. And you might want to take your stickers and, oh, here it is. This was the one I really wanted. Again, stars and stripes. You could cut this, or you could peel this off is what you do, and even put that across the jar just to dress it up a little bit more. Or you can take some of the curling ribbon using the same concept that she did before. When Mary was showing you how you could tie up the stars, you could take this and take it around and twine it and then do curling ribbon there, taking the time, letting them do it. And the beauty with doing curling ribbon, you don't have to have sharp scissors. You can use smaller scissor sets and just go ahead, and it's all about going slow. They just need to be sharp where you would cut. And then you've got that little springy curl that you can play with, and that tactile stimuli is revving up the brain. And that is an additional bonus to that particular activity. One of the other things that you can do, I've knocked out some of my stars. If you wanted a little more jazzed up front, you could take some of your foil stars and also twirl that around the entire jar. I'm not going to do that, quite honestly, because it's more work than I want to do playing with this right now. But it's concept, and every step, every idea, pose it as a question to your loved one. Let them make the choice. And maybe they try it, then ask, so what do you think of it? And they can always change things around. They can always take it off. They can do whatever they'd like. This is an activity that and I will take credit, I came up with this. So I don't normally like to take credit, but it was funny because I went to one of my coworkers in the building, and I was very busy, but I wanted to have a sample of something. So I just said, you know, do kind of like this, and this particular person is not creative at all. Like, you have to demonstrate everything that you need to do. So I said, just put one together, let me see it, and we'll go from there. So this is actually the one she put together. So I modeled what I just did off of it. And I looked at it and like, and you don't think you're creative? She goes, I can get over it. It was actually even fun. She's not creative. And then she happened to have it out at the front desk, and every one of our residents walking by were agog over it. Oh my God, that's so cute. Oh my God, you did that. And it was just such a great conversation piece. So think of it that way too. Once you've done this, even if you just have it for your picnic or your dining table, because you're not going to picnic, you put it out there, it gives that sense of pride, that sense of accomplishment, and then making a point of letting guests know, oh, look at what Mary did. Look at what Susie Q did. It's that pride and self-esteem of having accomplished, having participated, all of the while being part and parcel of the decision making. And while none of this stuff, as we always say, is complex rocket science material, it's understanding as you go through and you're doing a program together, taking the time to either be quiet and calm and relaxed with each other, or having conversation and being okay with occasional conversation, but then focusing back on the task. And then the other thing that I would encourage you to do is at the very end, compliment. Oh my God, that is gorgeous. And I actually did that when my co-mate did this at the office. I'm like, oh my gosh, and it's true. It's gorgeous. That is so fun. That is so clever. And you could just see in her that raised confidence, that raised self-esteem, and feeling really good that she had accomplished something which was not her comfort zone. She was only doing it to help me out and probably to make me go away, but that's beside the point. But we want people to feel a sense of accomplishment anytime you do anything. When you have decorated the stars, oh my gosh, that looks great. Oh, that looks, you did such a good job. Thank you. And that is the other piece of it. Thanking them for helping. Look at, you made our piece. So that brings us pretty much to the end of our program today, folks. I would encourage you to download some of the previous sessions that we've done. Mary has you sending pictures. I would encourage you to email and let us know what you think of these programs. If there's anything that you would like us to do that's a little different. I do see there are 2 questions in the chat box. And Mary, I can't work your computer. So Mary's going to come so we can take a look at them and hopefully get them answered for you.
Excuse me as I reach over.
Okay.
So Carmen from the library says, great idea. She'd love to have any of the pictures or emails that you guys send. And then Mary,
good question.
Do you have any recommendations for individuals who, along with Alzheimer's, also struggle with vision issues?
Yes.
Patty, of course, Patty does.
And I'll need more time, but off the top of my head, and if you don't mind, Mary, can you put in the chat box what kind of vision struggles they have? Is it macular degeneration? Is it what? Okay, macular. Okay, all right. So for guests viewing this who don't understand macular vision loss, Mary, do you care to model it, or do you want me to? Okay, so you are losing your vision, slow and steady. So what ends up happening, if I'm not mistaken, you're losing your outer vision first. It's becoming more and more tunnel, right, Mary?
Yes.
Thank you. It's been a while. So,
yes.
And everyone, just so you know, we're not strong medical. Mary's stronger medical. I'm stronger dementia. So we complement each other so well. So with macular degeneration, as people are losing their vision, what you want to do is bring things in more in direct and vision center focus. So for example, when we are serving someone with macular degeneration, we will put their plate directly in front of them and watch what they eat, because they will only eat what they're seeing. And then we'll move the tray around so that they see there is more food. So for activities for someone who's having some macular degeneration issues, what you'll want to do is more tactile things. So this may be where you're doing more hand over hand. Here, let me help you in helping them do these activities, because even with the stars, you may have to cut, but you could still hold up the paper and ask them, you know, which pattern would you like? Would you like this and or this? And so you might need to take more hands-on approach for that person, but you can still use all of these modified. Pretty much all of the programs we do, because we both have people in our building that have macular degeneration, we just modify and then we do additional assist for them, because they're still getting that benefit of that help from everybody. When it comes to macular degeneration, more auditory activities are going to be beneficial. So you may, again, depending on the stage of the disease, the vision disease they have, you may actually be sitting here doing this, but talking about it and giving the pieces to them and describing what they are and asking what they think about it. So it's just engaging in a different way. So again, you may be more hands-on, but they can still see certain things. What can they see? And for some of my residents, they've shared with their vision loss, they see color. So that is, they see color better than pattern, depending on the pattern. So again, you can choose, would you want me to use the blue as a tall piece or the red as a tall piece? But it's making sure that you have it in their vision mode where they're seeing still. But it goes back to having more hands-on, more auditory. So even though I have vision impairment, if I have this directly in front of me and you've coached me and you've got my hand on it and you're saying, okay, here's a flag, let's go ahead and put that in the vase, I'll still be able to do that. And everything you give me, I'm still going to be able to do that. Holding onto the vase is going to have me anchored, so I know where I'm going and then where I'm trying to head to. And this may be where, you know, it's not going to be a fantastical piece at first. And if you really are compelled and have that high need to have it look really nicer, you can do that outside of their vision. And that way, that's demeaning. If you're fixing it in front of them, that's demeaning and that's wrong. And that's not what it should be about. But I also get where you want things a certain way. You just do it outside of their vision. And so it's more hands-on, hand over hand, giving an anchor, having their hand holding the vase so they know where they're going and tucking it in there. And then giving a great deal more auditory clues. They will still be able to twine these around their finger if you want to do that. And I know I went on and on about twining it, but you can just stick them in straight too. I just like motion. There's no right, there's no wrong. I just encourage more auditory is going to be beneficial. And if you're seeing that they're struggling with that, then we really need to go in another direction, because there are still activities that you can do. You never want to just say, oh, you know, they're blind and let it go. You then want to go into auditory, tactile, and like I said, all of these activities can be done. Just keep in mind where that vision deficit is, put hands on and give better clues and visual, or I'm sorry, auditory direction, and that should help. But what we will do is make a point of coming up with a few more ideas for next time specifically. So I would encourage you to continue to dial in. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, good. Well, thank you, Mary. That's very nice of you. I appreciate all of your time, as does Mary. We were worried that we wouldn't have enough to talk about with this, but hey, we actually did a lot more than we thought. Mary, I thank you for your question. That is really very helpful, because so often people won't think to ask about it. And when we're dealing with most of our folks with memory loss, we're talking of ages where they're going to have other physical limitations. So it is an important point to bring up, because what do you do? And my big beef is when people just park someone in front of a TV and let the auditory sound go. There are still things that we can do. There are still things we can do to help people have purpose and feel they're contributing overall. And I would also encourage you to find ways to introduce being outdoors and getting that more of a sensory input, because that's going to help her make up for the vision loss. So again, we thank you for your time. Mary looks like she wants something
real quick,
to say.
So the next, like we said, we're going to be recording the next June, July, and August. The next one will be up on the library's YouTube June 2nd, which is a Wednesday. So we're trying to do the first Wednesday of each month. So Patty and I have some ideas, but we'll probably change them before that. So
that's our thing.
That's our thing. And then last thing I would like to add, Patty had kind of talked about ideas and suggestions. As we hopefully move away from COVID and we can do more presentations, Patty and I do a lot of presentations together. These are certainly been more craft, but we do a lot of education about what is dementia, what's normal aging versus dementia. Patty's done presentations for years, and I think we partner really well together, and we play off, and we like to have a lot of fun with the presentations, but it's a great education and resource. So if you have a group that you're involved with that would like for us to do something with that going forward, we'd love to, just reach out to the library. There is a Dementia Friendly Westmont email, and it's pretty much Dementia Friendly Westmont I'm going to have to look now. I apologize. I should know that off the top of my head, but I don't.
In the meantime, look at my pretty centerpiece.
Sorry. It's Dementia Friendly Westmont at westmont.il.gov. So again, Dementia Friendly Westmont at westmont.il.gov. So the Village of Westmont, we do have a Dementia Friendly Westmont page that has that email as well. So you can always reach out to us with questions through that email. Or if you forget that, you can always check in with the library. They have been a wonderful partner with Dementia Friendly Westmont, and they certainly can direct any of those questions to Patty and myself. And we are happy to help. We are here to answer any questions. So thanks again for joining us today with our Together Time Creating Memorable Moments with our Patriotic centerpieces. So thank you so much, and we will see you in June.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.